pretty much danced everywhere I went and just always was dancing. Like my dad always calls this dance that I used to do in the summertime when I would visit him on the beach. It was called La Danse du Soleil.
Yeah.
And it was because I would just start dancing and just like do crazy interpretive dancing just like by myself on the beach under the sunshine or the moon or whatever. Yeah. Dance is something that I was kind of, I feel like it was born inside of me.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Grace and Form podcast, your backstage pass to the world of movement and the people and stories that shape it. Today's story and person is, maybe I'm biased, a very inspiring one. I'm joined by my co-host and my very, very best friend, Indiana Woodward. I obviously feel that I know this girl pretty well. We've been best friends since we were 7, and from dancing barefoot on the beach to becoming a principal dancer at New York City Ballet, I know Indiana's journey is one of resilience, joy, and deep sensitivity. The conversation we're sharing today is the kind of conversation that Indy and I would have over dinner at her kitchen table. Feels particularly special to open it up to all of you. So, let's dive in. Let's chat to Indy.
I don't know about you, but growing up as a dancer, I lived in my leotards. I remember getting ready for class and always reaching for my favorite one. The one that made me feel confident, comfortable, and ready to take on whatever the day threw at me, whatever that may be. But finding that perfect mix of style, comfort, and durability for that sweat, that's not always easy, especially on a budget. That's why I love Discount Dance. It's been my go-to for years, and now, whether you're a beginner or a pro, you can find everything you need in one place. Leotards, tights, shoes, warm-ups, you name it. And the best part, they make it affordable, with sizes that fit every dancer. And here's a little treat just for you. Use code FORM20 at checkout to get 20% off your first order and score free shipping on orders over $50. So why wait? Head to discountdance.com and stock up on all your dance essentials today.
I have obviously known you, Indy, since I was 7.
A wee lad.
Oh, a wee little lad. So I know you quite well, but I'm hoping by the end of this conversation I might even know you better.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So to start, for those who don't know you, you were born in Paris.
Mm-hmm. Paris, France. And I lived there for, I always kind of forget, but I think I was 3.5 when we moved to Philadelphia, my mom and my dad and I. And we moved to Philadelphia. And then they had my brother, and then they got divorced when I was 6.5, and we moved to LA with my mom, my brother and I, and then my dad moved back to Paris. And then I kind of went back and forth every holiday from school. I had to go and see my dad, and so I spent the school year in LA, and then I would go and fly and see my dad, and I would go back and forth.
It's pretty disruptful youth.
Definitely.
You know, it's so interesting. I have started to see in friends now, like, you know, kids that go through divorce and have to just even move house. I find it challenging myself to live between 2 places.
Yeah.
How was that as a little one?
It was definitely very challenging. I actually have a little tattoo of a cloud on my wrist because I felt like divorces are quite difficult. And between my mom and my dad, felt like my mom didn't always want to see my dad in us. And same thing with my dad and my mom. And that's totally natural. And I don't hold anything against them with that. It's just like, you know, separation is difficult. And when you're the child or the children, you're caught in the middle of it as well. And so literally when I was in the clouds, in the sky, in the plane, I felt like it was my place of myself, like just to be on my own and like fully form in who I was, funnily enough. So I guess it was good that they were like 11-hour plane rides. But I was an unaccompanied minor with my brother. And so I had a lot of responsibility in myself, like feeling like a lot of responsibility at a very young age and kind of a caretaker. And the disruption that I felt in my childhood was really just that I had to be very adaptive.
Yeah.
Like I always felt, and I feel like today, you know, in starting this business together and talking about our strengths in what we can bring to the business and things to highlight in our relationship and stuff, it's been really interesting to kind of mull it over, because I realized that a strength that I have never really vocalized is the ability to be adaptive. And my therapist has just told me this recently, that she was like, wow, you really were able to be okay with change.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Well, you were kind of made to be, right?
Yeah. But instead of taking it on and being so upset and diving into the blackest hole of the darkest earth.
Yeah.
And that's thanks to my parents and my mom, who's just like a fairy angel ray of sunshine.
She is.
And made everything an adventure for us. Always. Like even the toughest times, like I remember sometimes we would go into grocery stores with no shoes, and we made a total adventure of it because we needed to get to the AC because we were dying of heat, or you know, the little things that were like, or we went to an apartment that had toxic paint and then we had to leave, or we were in another home that we found out later was a home where there was a huge murder in LA, and it's called Wonderland Avenue, I believe, or Wonderland Drive. And we moved in there, my mom and a single mom with 2 kids. And I remember having nightmares all the time and it being super scary and stuff. And then she found out from a neighbor saying that it was a murder house. And we were like, I wonder why the real estate person didn't tell my mom that with these 2 kids. And there's like a law in LA.
Yeah.
To not bore you with the details, there's a law where like you have to pass a certain amount of years until you have to divulge the information that's gone on in the house. So we were obviously before that, and she didn't have to. But all to say is that my mom really helped me see things as an adventure and find the light and positivity in everything, because you can.
She really did, and it's so interesting because I've been lucky enough to like go on so many trips with you and your mama.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'm always amazed by, because I try to slow down and appreciate things. Sometimes when I'm appreciating nature or whatever it is, I almost feel like I have a huge appreciation for nature, to preface it, but sometimes I feel like I'm almost like faking till I make it, to like really slow down and like absorb it.
Yeah.
But something both of you have is the ability for the smallest things to move you in such profound ways. Yeah. And of course it comes from your mum.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful. And because of your childhood, it's such an incredible thing she instilled. Because life wasn't easy for her. She was a single mum.
Yeah.
And also a dancer.
Yeah.
So very similar in that way.
Yeah. And I feel like she was very helpful. And, you know, in myself as I grew up, I was very grateful to also follow this path of just really being sensitive and open and seeing the colors of the world. Yeah. Just in general, everywhere I went. And it doesn't mean that I didn't have very depressive times in my life. Like I still have very depressive times, and I go into black holes, you know, in my life as well. And I deal with it how I deal with it. But I feel like what's really cool is to just be able to see, I don't know, some beautiful things in the world, because we can get so wrapped up in like the pessimism of so much that that's happening in the world today. Like it's just overwhelming and so sad and chaotic. But I think seeing also the other side, that's like in nature, like that's the thing that I think of the most, is that's what I find most beautiful, and like the most amazing examples of life in nature, and the resilience of like bugs and animals and the earth just in general with what we do to it. And they're so resilient and adaptive. Yeah. And so I feel like that has helped me so much in my childhood to be okay with change, even if it makes me feel like super uncomfortable, very sickening, like I really don't like it as well. Yeah. And that's something from my dad that I received, was that he always pushed me to be in an uncomfortable feeling with myself, like sit with it. Yeah. Like to be able to be, like I would feel very melancholic at certain times of the day, like when I was a kid at sunset for some reason. It always made me really melancholic, and I think it's because the night was arriving. But instead of being really afraid of that feeling, I kind of just had to go through it, and it helped me become stronger to take on things in life that feel really uncomfortable, and to just really feel what's happening. And even though I want to run away or put my fight or flight mode on, I can now kind of just breathe and just like come back into myself and just do the most simple human thing, which is just to breathe. And then it just brings you back to where you are, you know, because your mind can just go off. And our minds do.
Our minds really do. Indianized texts are at 20 different planets at once.
At 20, exactly. So it's nice to be able to like come back to yourself. And I mean, the help of friends is so crucial, and family, but breathing is just like been the most helpful to deal with change.
Sounds like those moments in the clouds between, you know, the States and Europe, those moments were for you. And probably, and it's interesting that you said at the beginning that you were this like kind of middleman. You were always in kind of mediation roles in your life. And I see that all the time for you. And you became, that's a role that you were given very young, to be that kind of in between, but also in between with responsibility. You were an older sister. And that surely will give you a lot of responsibility from a young age to continue to uphold those things.
Totally.
Did you feel like when you went to the States and you were able to kind of have those longer periods of time, did you feel that it was challenging to go back and forth, or was it something that became quite a routine and you were able to kind of look forward to it?
It was extremely challenging. So my mom is South African, as you know, but I'm just saying it to anybody who's listening. She's South African and my dad's French, and I, you know, am French, but I grew up primarily in America. And so when I was going back and forth, I felt very lost in my identity of being American and French and having a South African mom. And I felt like I never had a place. Like I felt like I never belonged anywhere. And that can also probably have to do with moving so much as well. You know, that's just when you're a kid and you get kind of rattled, and everybody has things in their childhood that, you know, rattle them or define them. And I feel like for me, I was able to get to a place where I felt my Frenchness and my Americanness only when I was older. So when I was younger, I struggled a lot with language in school, not speaking, although I was very, very shy, and I still am very shy, even though I talk a lot and I love to talk to people and be social, but I'm very, very shy, and it comes out. And I turn red, I get nauseous, I get very sweaty, and then because you can see it on my face, I get even more embarrassed, and I've been called out on it sometimes, so it's...
I didn't even think about it, and I was like, da-da-da-da. And they were like, oh, I hadn't even realized it. And then you're suddenly going, okay, well, that's not going to help.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Totally. So with language, going back to like how I felt and how it was difficult for me, was I learned French was my first language, and then obviously I learned English, and I went to an English school from when I was very young until I was, I think, in like elementary school, like maybe first grade or something. And then I went to French school, and I was in the French school system for 4 years, and then I went back to American school in fourth through the rest of my high school. And for me, it was a really challenging thing because I missed out on a lot of vocabulary, grammar, and very crucial lessons in both the languages. Like, because I was split, I missed out on the English basics, and then I missed out on finishing the French. So I never had a complete language. So it's something that I've always had a lot of insecurity about, is my language and feeling comfortable and like I belong somewhere. And actually the first time I felt like I belonged and it was a place that I felt super accepted was England.
Really?
When I landed in London. And I don't know if it's because you were there, you know, which is like, you know, my home.
I have that effect.
But I think because it's we looked up recently, it's the place where the most languages are spoken in the whole world.
Yeah.
I felt like it was such a nice melting pot. And it gave me a lot because I went to visit you basically once a year for 20 years.
Yeah.
So I felt like it gave me a lot of courage in myself.
Yeah.
To be able to just kind of create my own language.
Be your own person.
And also not feel apologetic for it. Or if I feel like I don't know a word, I ask now. Yeah. Instead of being like, oh, I don't know it, I'm so stupid. I would feel so stupid. And then I was like, no, it's just different.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because I've had the like joy of and been so inspired by watching you grow into the woman that you are. But when we think about like little Indy, the idea, and particularly at that age, like you are trying to figure out who you are and how the world works. Like I see it with Max, my nephew, all the time. Like he's like figuring things out. He's asking questions to put like 2 and 2 together. Yeah, like, totally. Work out the world and work out like his place in it. Yeah. And when you're split between 2 identities and 2 different versions of yourself, 2 different lives, 2 different homes, and trying to like bring the 2 together and understand like who I am. Yeah. That's tough. Yeah. And you had amazing parents and amazing family, but ultimately when you're pushed between 2 places, you're alone.
Yeah, totally. And I had a wonderful stepdad as well when my mom got remarried. Yeah. And my dad had the most amazing girlfriend, and they also really helped me as well. But you are really alone. You are alone because you're kind of, you move and you're ever changing. Ever changing. Was it your mum that introduced you to ballet? Because she was a dancer. I think she was the person who put me in ballet. She always tells me this story where basically she was ready to pop. I was in her tummy and she was gonna give birth. Whenever she was ready. She was ready, and she always tells me that she was doing a show in, I believe it was a club or some sort of a place where there was dancing, and it was 2 women that were pregnant. So it was my mom and another woman that had the baby basically like a day apart or so, like a week apart from me. And they were performing pregnant. And they were performing pregnant, like right before they were giving birth. This is so your mom. So my mom. This is also so you would do this too. I would do this too. So she always tells me, she's like, you were pretty much born on stage. Yeah. And always around music and performing and all this stuff. So I think my mom was the one, obviously, to put me in ballet. Yeah. But I was very lucky, and she also put me in, and my stepdad and my dad, we all collectively, they chose and helped me. I did ice skating. I quit ballet at some point, and I did karate for a while. I did... this I learned recently. Yeah. Indy and I were doing an interview recently, and she said, I quit ballet, I did karate for a while, thought that's what I was going to do. I was like, what? Yeah, there was also a point where when I was at the Bolshoi in Moscow, which I'm sure we'll get to, I decided that I wanted to be a character dancer. Yeah. Because the character dancing in Russia was so incredible. Yeah. And so... like musical and rhythmical and just like really grounded. I was like, wow. I'm sure you had a million things that you wanted to be. Yeah. I did tennis as well for a while. Skiing, I wanted to be a pro skier. Was it always grounded in sport? Was there art forms that you were interested in? I really, really wanted to do photography. Yes. I think also because my dad is a photographer and a filmmaker and a writer. And so he showed me, like, we went to so many photo exhibitions and beautiful museums all over the world as I grew up. So I got to see really incredible art in photography and painting. Yeah. And so both of those things I really, really was passionate about. I still have a camera, and I love taking photographs. And as well, I have a really extensive art drawer that's next to my bed. I wouldn't call it an art drawer. Call it like an entire room in a closet. Basically. So I love art, and I love drawing and painting and charcoal and watercolors, something that I'm super passionate about. But sports was, I guess it was both. Yeah, movement and expression. It checks out. It checks out. So your mum put you in ballet. Yeah. And then throughout all the other things that you tried, when was it that it felt like actually that was the direction that you were moving in? With ballet? Yeah, with ballet. I quit ballet after doing a summer course when I was about, I don't know if it was 9 or 8, but it was around then, like quite young. And I quit, and I was just had enough of it. I felt like it was very silly because of like a class that I'd taken or something. And I quit, and then I went to see Romeo and Juliet. And I had started karate at that time and done, I think, half a year or so. And I just was sobbing, and I just was like, I want to do it. It's like my favorite thing on earth to see ballet and to dance, just dancing in general, and movement. And so I went back to ballet, and then when I was like 10 years old, that's when I decided that was what I wanted to do when I was 10, which is crazy to think about now, because you're so little when you're 10 years old. But when I think about how I was when I was 10 years old, I was like, no, I was really confident in my decision.
I knew you.
Yeah.
I knew you, and you were very confident. You knew what you wanted. And I always think it's funny when you have like little people in your life and you think about them like making those decisions and knowing what they want to do and being so convinced that is their route. And you know, then I looked at other friends down my journey where I was like, you know, people are still figuring things out.
Yeah, totally.
And there's no right way, but it is quite amazing when you come into the world and quite quickly you know what you're here for. Yeah,
it's crazy. And I feel like I pretty much danced everywhere I went and just always was dancing. Like my dad always calls this dance that I used to do in the summertime when I would visit him on the beach. It was called La Danse du Soleil.
Yeah.
And it was because I would just start dancing and just like do crazy interpretive dancing just like by myself on the beach under the sunshine or the moon or whatever. And so I think I just kind of dance is something that I was kind of, I feel like it was born inside of me, you know, to just like move, whatever kind it may be.
Yeah. So you started dancing. Was there a school specifically you went to before we met at Yuri's?
Yes, I went to West Side Dance.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went to West Side Dance for a couple of years, I believe. And then after that, I was at Yuri's.
And that's where we met.
Yeah.
That's where we met and fell in love. Best friends for life. Instantly. So both of us were obviously at Yuri's. And one question I've never asked you, we obviously had our like separate relationships with him. Yeah. And Yuri, to explain who he was to everyone listening, he was our teacher, our ballet teacher. He was an incredible dancer in his own right. Where did he dance?
He danced at the Stanislavski.
So
in Moscow.
Yes, he was Russian through and through.
Yeah.
And the kind of running joke always was that he'd been in the US like 20 years, but he spoke no English.
Yeah,
and no English to us.
No English.
Yeah, he would occasionally sneak in, you know, the occasional word. To everyone, he would call me like Sashka.
Yeah, mine was Indianichka.
Yeah, Indianichka.
And he knew how to say McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's. Yeah, I told you, like, the occasional word he'd get in there. But he was a huge figure in both of our lives.
Yeah.
And was incredibly strict, but also so loving.
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with him?
He felt to me like very much like a father figure, because he just like, he loved me so much and us so much. Yeah. And I think that was such a special thing about Yuri, was that he invested so much time and passion and, you know, wanting to give all the information that he received in his career to us as dancers, so that we had the best possible training and like the best knowledge to be able to continue in this journey of dance. Yeah. But he was also so loving and strict, like you're saying. So for me, the relationship was, you know, hard. It was hard because he was a very difficult teacher and he wanted perfection, which I totally understand. Yeah. But he also would see when it was too much and then be like, okay, and then give you a hug. Yeah. You know, and just say like, restart again tomorrow or something. Like, you've done a really good job in Russian, which somehow we understood.
We understood it.
We understood everything he said.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was kind of like a father figure to me, just someone that was extremely inspirational and motivating, very motivating. Yeah. Like, I could do it. Like, he had believed in me so much that I felt like, oh, wow, I could maybe make this into a career. Yeah.
Was that one of the reasons you went to Russia? I don't know.
I mean, definitely was one of the reasons why I went to the Bolshoi. Yeah. Summer school first.
Well, that was the basis of your training. Yeah.
So basically, the first summer course that I ever attended was the Kirov Academy in Washington, D.C. And it was my first sleepaway. I was very, very young, and it was such a blast. And so that was, you know, Vaganova training. Yeah. Then the second time I went to a summer course the next year was the Bolshoi Academy in Connecticut. Yeah. And I had such a wonderful time in that program, and I felt like I learned so much as well. And so I went back the following year because it was in New York City. And I was like, this would be so incredibly fun. It was in the Lower East Side. It was just like so much fun. And I don't think we knew, or maybe we did know, but I don't think I knew at the time, but they were picking, we had a showcase at the end of the summer course, and I was picked to do, I believe, Bluebird with a dancer who came from the Bolshoi Ballet, because they would bring some dancers, male dancers from the Bolshoi to partner us.
Oh, interesting.
Which was really cool. And we got to hang out with them and learn the language, and just like, it was really a wonderful exchange. And at the end of that showcase, they announced a winner, 2 winners, a male and a female, to go to Russia and be in scholarship. And then 2 second place winners to pay them their way to go to Russia, but they were invited. And so I literally could not believe that I received this. It was absolutely unbelievable, because I wasn't even like, I didn't even feel like I was the best in that class. Like, there were so many amazing dancers. And so I got that prize of being paid for and going to Russia and studying at the Bolshoi. And the person who was opposite of me was Gabriel Stone-Scher, who was an ABT and an amazing dancer as well. And so he was paid for as well. And so we went to Russia. And I didn't know anybody except for him. And actually, one of the dancers that was in Yuri's school from when we were younger was this woman named Mallory, a dancer that was exquisite. And she was in Russia as well, and I couldn't believe it. And so it was a very incredible experience. It was when I was 15. And on my way to Russia, I had auditioned at the Royal Ballet to try to go there for the year-round program, because I wanted to be a little bit more... Yuri had said, like, you should go to a school now that's attached to a company.
Yes.
So you can try and make it into a career and get more exposure places. And I had done YGP twice at that time. Which
is a big competition, big ballet competition.
And I'd been exposed to so many other companies. And then I finally went to Russia. I had auditioned for Royal and SAB, School of American Ballet, before Russia.
Yeah.
Got to Russia, was incredible. And then when I was on my way back, I had gotten a letter of acceptance from SAB with a scholarship to the summer course. And I'd only ever gotten a scholarship to go to Russia. So I felt very honored. But it was like a fully different training technique. Fully different. Balanchine, who was Russian, but it was like the speed was different, the footwork, the articulation of the fingers, the arms, the head, the épaulement with the head. And it was so different from my Russian training. But Yuri and myself, I was very open to going to a place that I think I felt like they wanted me to go.
Yeah.
Or they accepted me.
Yeah.
And so I took the dive and I went to SAB, like a fully different experience in every way. And I totally fell in love with it. So I'm really glad I was, led to be quite open-minded with my decision and not super like upset that I didn't go to Royal Ballet, because I thought I was going to go there.
Yeah, your mind, that was the dream at that
or
moment.
Or ABT or Russia, quite honestly. I really wanted to be at the Bolshoi or the Mariinsky, the Kirov. So it was a big pivot, but I really am so grateful that I trusted the process of life and that just took me there, because I'm an accomplished dancer now in a really incredible company.
Yeah.
And I may not have ever been able to do that if I hadn't said yes to that summer course.
Yeah. Yeah. And life has taken you in the most incredible direction, even if at that time it wasn't the direction you saw for yourself.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. So you were at SAB for how many years?
I was at SAB for 2 years. I completed my C1 and my C2 year. Usually you finish a D level. So I was supposed to do 1 more year, but Peter Martins saw me in the end of the year showcase and I guess really liked me, and he needed another woman. And
so Peter Martins was the former director of New York City Ballet.
Yes, correct. Yeah. And so I got accepted into the company as an apprentice. So I skipped my last year in school, which was incredible. And I got into the company as an apprentice. I spent a couple months as an apprentice. Usually you spend a year, but the timing worked out really wonderfully where they needed people to join the corps de ballet.
Yeah.
And so I got in early with my apprenticeship and I joined the corps of New York City Ballet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember being by your side for all of it and just being like absolutely amazed, because first of all, obviously now I'm sitting next to somebody who is a principal dancer at one of the most incredible companies. But at the time, even the idea that you got into this company was beyond our wildest dream as kids.
Oh yeah, I can't even believe when I think about my childhood or just my childhood self in ballet, I never in a million years would have ever believed that I would have been able to make it to this point.
Yeah. And also what's so amazing, and we'll get to it more in a little bit, I hope, but the fact that you have gone through, in ballet, there are all these ranks. So there's quarter ballet, soloist, sometimes first soloist at different companies, principal dancer, and whatever variation the company has. But to go through each of those steps takes a combination of hard work, luck in terms of physical health, and luck in terms of like the place and the time that you're at.
Totally.
And you went through it with all the highs and lows that you did, being in all the circumstances that happen as a dancer when you're having to stick up for yourself and be there, but with so much grace and positivity.
Thanks, Ess.
And that was amazing to see from my perspective. But talk to me a little bit about like what's the journey is like, knowing that when you enter a company, you're at one level and there are different promotions that you can get.
Yeah. So my journey in the company was, I started out in the corps, and I was just basically just so grateful to have a job and to be in this amazing company, and just in awe of everyone, because I didn't grow up with anything Balanchine or really any knowledge of Balanchine. Surprisingly, I felt like I was kind of, I don't know why, but I didn't know much about it. I don't know. We never really heard about.
In a nutshell, what is Balanchine for people that don't know?
So Balanchine is, he was the founding director of the New York City Ballet, the founder of New York City Ballet. And he was an unbelievable choreographer that created, I don't know, hundreds or more of ballets. And
very specific style.
Very specific style to him. He changed the speed and the technique of ballet to accommodate his choreography. That's my interpretation of how he was. So he, he used Stravinsky music. He was friends with Stravinsky and really incredible composers. And he created the most dynamic movement and free movement. So he created the technique to be able to have the foundation to be able to do that movement. Yeah. So the quick pace, really articulate footwork, a different shape of the head so that it's angled a bit more like you're getting a kiss on the cheek on most positions. So you have a lot more freedom in your head and neck. It's not just side to side. It's like tilted. And a lot of breathing and freedom in your arms. So it felt like, and he loved America. So it felt like it was almost just like this new technique of just like liberation. Yeah. That's how it kind of feels to me. So that's kind of who Balanchine is in my eye of what I've seen.
And so joining the corps for all of these new pieces that you got to dance.
I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is actually a thing. I've never seen this choreography. It's unbelievable. And like we do pieces at New York City Ballet that are probably about 20 minutes each. And there are 3 of them. Yep. And so I got to see so many works of Balanchine along with so many other choreographers that are unreal that I'd never heard of either when I was really young. And now obviously appreciate and just I'm so lucky to dance their works. But so I grew up in the corps like just being bewildered by everything and not having any knowledge of what they necessarily meant or like the gravity of these pieces in the world of ballet. And so it was helpful, I guess, to not feel as much pressure because it was just so new and I was just like absolutely in love with it. So that's what I thought of. Yeah. I wasn't like, oh my God, it's like this role, I can't believe it, unless it was a classical ballet that I grew up with. Like when I got to dance the lead of the Sylph in Les Sylphines and I was in the corps, I was freaking out. I was like...
Because you understood the gravity of it. You'd seen it growing up.
Yeah, this is like an étoile principal dancer role dream that you dream of as a tiny ballerina in your room and you have wings and it's just like, super magical. And that's what I'd grown up with. And so it was very like I was bewildered to be able to get that opportunity. Yeah. But as I grew up seeing all the pieces that Balanchine and other choreographers created, Jerome Robbins, Justin Peck, Ratmansky, I have the same feeling of like that I just love those pieces and there's so much gravity to them. But at the time, it was just what I had grown up with. So it was my understanding of those classics. So I grew up with that and I was very lucky with the dancers that were around me at the time, I think, in other companies as well. Like I was very inspired by Isabella Boylston in ABT actually because she always put out that to focus on herself and not worry that you don't look like this other dancer, or like not try to mimic exactly the other dancer.
Yeah.
In your body type, in your technique and stuff, because it's beautiful that you're different.
And that was an interesting thing for you, because actually I would say when you joined the company, talking about body type, talking about being comfortable in your own skin, was not a conversation that was being had. And I think it's much more now. Obviously the undertones of dance are still very much that there's a specific body type that is favored over others.
Totally.
But it isn't something that's put on you like it was, like the conversations I can remember having. How was that joining the company, particular balancing company, where there's a very particular look?
Yeah. Well, I feel like what I've learned now, I personally always struggled with being told by many people that I was too muscular.
Yeah.
And so that was very difficult because I couldn't really change that.
I remember bulky. It was like that. I remember
and muscular. And it was difficult because it's like that your muscles take a lot of time to like, I don't know, adapt and change.
And also maybe those muscles are the things that were making you do the incredible things that you could.
And I need them. I'm so grateful for my muscles because they've helped me get this far. But I was kind of criticized for it a lot. And then when I kind of dove into Balanchine and the history of Balanchine, I became so much more open-eyed to different body types, because Balanchine loved different body types. People that were more voluptuous, very thin, narrow, wide, tall, short. And you can see with all the original works that he did, you can see the different body types. And I'd never seen that before in a ballet company because of the very specific rigid training of like just being one body type, you know, very thin and tall.
Yeah.
Like at the Bolshoi, they're all like the most incredible ballet bodies. And so it was kind of a relief to feel like I had a bit of a place to fit in, that I was a bit different. But again, it was really helpful to have that mindset of, and learn it and take it on from other dancers around me, that you really can only focus on yourself, and being you and being different is really beautiful and extremely valuable in specifically the New York City Ballet too.
Yeah.
This podcast is an extension of our app, Grace and Form, where we bring ballet classes and ballet-inspired movement practices to you from beginner to pro, so everybody and everybody can experience our love of dance in their own home.
Absolutely, and we want to share everything that makes us feel amazing with you, and you don't even need a studio, and that's what's so wonderful about it. You can feel good anywhere.
So download the app, get a 7-day free trial, come move with me and Indy and some of our wonderful guests and incredible teachers.
We can't wait to see you.
How did you deal with those conversations just internally, where it's like, okay, and we all have it as, I always think as women and anyone in general.
Yeah.
But I think that just because of culture, I think ballet is almost like a heightened version of what a lot of people in the everyday life experience as they grow up with the media and the world that's all around them. Those conversations of like feeling good within your body and feeling like you're fit enough, maybe thin enough, maybe all those different things that come into play.
Yeah.
How did you deal with those voices?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I dealt with it very well because I just covered myself up. I was so insecure and so self-conscious. So I'd wear really big trash bag shorts and t-shirts and all of this stuff, and just like didn't want anybody to look at me, even though I was in a ballet career where you need to wear leotards. Yeah. So it took me, I mean, until probably like even, you know, the past 3 years is like the first time. I'm 30 now, so maybe like around 27, 28, I started feeling way more comfortable with myself because I finally found some peace within myself and just being like a human being. And I think the pandemic really helped with that too, because there was a big pause and an appreciation for health in your body. Yeah. You know, that you were just healthy.
And it's tough because I think that like as a dancer's career starts at 17, 18.
Yeah, you're changing constantly.
And you are completely changing and your body is doing so many different things.
Oh yeah, and your hormones are raging.
All of it. And it's very tough because you're surrounded in this room in front of this mirror with all of these different people who are at different stages and ages of life and have different bodies, have different vessels that they're moving through their life in. And the amount of comparison.
Yeah, it's difficult.
I mean, honestly, just take a moment for those that have to think about like being in front of a mirror. How many hours a day?
So many hours.
And then also be confronted by the fact that we all have our own insecurities and things.
And when you like, okay, so there's a couple things that helped me manage this.
Yeah.
number one, definitely not a good thing to do, but I had the ability to do it. I wear contacts, and so I would just take them out. And I was like, well, I can't see what I look like in the mirror, so I'm not criticizing myself, and I can just be good in my body. Yeah. Honestly, it helped. Because it is hard to be in front of a mirror 24/7, you know, and now it's very different. I don't need to take my contacts out. I just like, you know, can just be. But I had a really important moment with a repertory director named Glenn Keenan in my company, and she told me that most of the times when people are looking at you and you're feeling insecure, like unbelievably insecure, they're not thinking that at all.
No.
And they're concerned with themselves. Everyone's concerned with themselves.
Yeah.
And we think that people are thinking of us.
Yes.
And really, never.
No.
Or, you know,
or they're thinking about you, but in conjunction with their own stuff.
Yeah, or their own stuff. Yeah. Or you just never know what anyone's thinking.
Yeah.
So your insecurities and like covering yourself up and stuff, it's very helpful to remember, which I was really glad she told me when I was very young, that because I had just come back from an injury, so my body had changed a bit, and I was so insecure. And she told me, you don't know what other people are thinking. So you don't need to, you know, put that pressure on yourself because they're probably thinking you're beautiful.
Yeah.
And your insecurities are your insecurities and something that you need to work on accepting and, you know, living with too. But that was so helpful. And then the third thing that I can remember that was very helpful, again, it's, I think community is so crucial to like help build confidence and strength in each other. Like, I find that that's a really beautiful thing and why it's so important to surround yourself by people that you really appreciate and you love and you can be honest with.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm so lucky that I have relationships with people that, and I've put so much time in it too. It's not like it doesn't go both ways.
Yeah.
But I'm so lucky that I've found people that are just like really helpful and lifting me up, but also calling me out and also just being really honest and kind. Just generous and kind. So the third person that did that for me was a principal dancer. He retired recently. His name was Russell Jansen. And I was a soloist at the time, and I was wearing like tons of leg warmers and still covered up a lot, even though this repertory director told me this wonderful thing that alleviated a lot of pressure for me when I was performing.
Yeah.
But in the studio, I would wear so much stuff. And he looked at me and he was like, why do you always wear so many things on your legs? You have the most beautiful legs. And I was like, really? And because I was told so many times that my legs were so bulky and muscular that I just felt like so insecure, and I felt like I needed to make them look really long and thin with no muscle definition.
Yeah.
And then when he told me that he was like, your muscles are so beautiful. Yeah. It was something, I mean, it's so simple and might sound so stupid and silly, but it helped me so much feel like, oh, wow, okay, I can, you know, wear tights and shorts and things like that and not cover it up.
Yeah, because it's funny, there's a lot of like, and knowing you now at 30 and the woman that you are today, like there's a lot of like, it's incredible the power of your own mind in terms of now you know yourself, you're so much more confident in your own body. As a growing woman in a company where it's all about body, it is amazing sometimes, like just speaking to someone's insecurities can help a lot.
Yeah, and just like being really, you know, patient with yourself too is a huge thing. And also, you know, in your experience when, like in my experience when I was told things, it's so good to remember those things, how much they hurt you. Yeah. And to not repeat them, you know, and to realize the value that your words really have. Even the tiny things that you just say in passing, if someone is feeling super insecure or very vulnerable, or like you don't know what's going on in people's lives. So I think that's something that I try to live by, is to just really be mindful of just being kind. Like it takes nothing to be kind.
It takes nothing. And you've definitely, as your best friend over the years and like a sounding board, and we're a sounding board for each other with everything, you've definitely gone through so much of people being able to just dump things on you and you having to sit there and understand whether you're absorbing it or you're pushing it away, or how you're going to deal with that stuff, like being told your legs are too bulky. And then having to go, okay, well, you've put that on me now, and how am I going to move forward? And it's been tough.
tough.
It's really tough. And you have developed so many ways to keep yourself grounded and happy and kind and have fun. Like communities, I know so many of your wonderful friends at the company that keep you, you keep those spirits lifted for each other.
Yeah.
But how have you, with everything that has been thrown at you, because I believe that your journey to being a principal dancer was graft. You worked so hard. You know, you asked for very little. You worked really hard. That's my perspective looking in.
Yeah.
But how have you kept yourself so joyful? Because you are a joyful person.
Yeah.
And it's not been easy.
It's definitely not been easy. I think the biggest thing that I realized was that it's a decision to not take this negative, pessimistic route that I could very easily do, because life is tough and we all have very difficulties that arise, and life's difficult. But I think thanks to my mom and my dad and my stepdad and, you know, my stepmom, and I feel like they really helped me to see the light in so many things and see the beauty, as well as I never closed myself off to just ballet. Something that like helped me consistently for years. I used to go and take an open Gaga class at Studio Gibney on Mondays, every Monday. And there's no mirrors. It's movement, which is what I love to do, but it's movement with feeling. It's movement that's directed with what's happening inside, like on a cellular level. So there's no choreographed steps and there's nothing, but you just move from your insides and you don't make any shapes. And so that was something that like really, really, really helped recharge my battery and express what I was receiving from so many people, because I do love to listen and I feel immensely for other people, like feel what their emotions are kind of empathetically. Yeah. And so it's easy for me to take on so much. And that was like that was the first thing I would say that helped me in my career, was doing Gaga for myself. Yeah. Choosing to go and take a movement class that like had nothing to do with the movement that I was doing, but helped me so much in the movement that I was doing eventually, because it showed me the freedom that I had again. It like retook me to my childhood state of dance. Yeah. And I think that can be so closed out sometimes just from training and being serious in training that we forget about the joy. And so Gaga really helped me find my joy again, just in general, and my light, and in dance and in life. And then I feel like my dad was always very persistent with me doing other things. And so it was very helpful to be guided in a way that I absolutely loved dance, but I also had a lot of different passions and goals and things on the side. Like, even though ballet was my number one, you know, I loved going to nature and I loved going and helping. You know, I think my mom and I took a trip to Costa Rica with my sibling and their friend, and we went to an animal sanctuary to help animals heal. And that was like another thing that I realized I love so much. And so I guess those things really helped me keep being joyous, but a constant decision every day. Yeah. As well as just, you know, when you're feeling really, really down, the other thing that really helped me every day is to just go outside and take a walk. Like,
you always do that. You're so good at that.
Yeah, because it's so easy, and I've done it. I did it for years. I still do it to this day. It's not like I'm done doing this self-inflicting like darkness, sabotage where you feel like you're feeling so low, so down and depressed, and you're in your home, and you can just keep going and wallowing and wallowing and wallowing, and it's so difficult to get yourself outside sometimes. Just take a walk. Yeah. But making yourself just go, you know, you can sit with it and then make yourself go out and just literally walk to a tree or just like a little park or water, and then just taking some breaths. You don't realize how much it shifts your mindset. And I think like it's so easy to be stuck in something, and it's so helpful to just realize that we're all like waves. Yeah. And our mind is a wave as well. So it's like very helpful to change that mindset. Yeah. I guess. So that kind of helped my joy.
Yeah, and It's been lucky with both of us because we've experienced a very similar thing with self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
And like, you know, all of us do. But what's so lovely, I think, about our friendship and is that we always just text each other and we say like self-sabotaging right now. And we just, what I love about that is that it's almost just like admitting to them or saying to another person, I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
I know I am.
Taking
this time will also
responsibility.
pass.
Yeah.
Which is a lovely thing as well.
Yeah, and admitting it.
Admitting it.
And just being okay with admitting it. That's the hardest thing, to ask for help, really. But if you could just find one person in your life, you just literally just text and say, I'm having a really hard time right now.
Yeah.
And that's it. Doesn't even need to have an answer to that. But you putting it out there also helps you have whatever you're feeling move through you.
Yeah.
So it goes in, you sit with it, and it moves right along.
And it's so funny. Oftentimes, like, you'll text me that and I'll reply going, me too.
Yeah.
Like, it's like somehow that's also happening for
Yeah.
me as well. So one thing that we've been doing on the podcast for our guests is talking about these 3 spotlight moments.
Yes.
That if we were to kind of shine a light over your life, feel like moments that really taught you to be kinder to yourself or were pivotal in another way, kind of like made you go into another direction, pivot in a different way. If we looked at it for you, and maybe we've touched on some of them, but what 3 moments in your life, could be personal, could be career, feel like they really taught you some valuable lessons about how to move forward?
The first one that comes to my mind is Russia.
Yeah.
Me going to Russia when I was 15. I think I was so young, and I went and I was alone. And I think that was very, very, very challenging. I was so homesick. I was pretty frightened, even though I speak English and French, and, you know, I was open and exposed to so many cultures growing up. This one was just different, and I was putting myself out there alone. And so I think that was so challenging, but I got so much confidence in myself that I could be okay anywhere I went, because I had the best time of my life, and I also had the most growth, I feel like, in my life of being able to be with myself and to take care of myself.
Yeah.
It was so incredible, and adapt and be communicative and grow, just grow. It was like real growth.
Yes.
And it was like, that was my number one spotlight moment, I think, in my life, where I really felt like I physically changed, mentally changed, like in the course of 2 months.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. Everything kind of changed, and you were suddenly like, oh, I'm an independent person. I can challenge myself and take myself completely out of my comfort zone, and I can have my own back.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
The second one I would say was probably going to SAB.
Yeah.
Because I really, really, it was a big shift. Like, it was like a jumping off a diving board kind of shift, and then plunging into very deep depths of the sea.
Yeah.
Just because it was such a different technique and style, and something that was totally unknown to me, even though it was ballet. So I had the comfort that it was ballet still. And there's, you know, a universal language of ballet that's so wonderful. But I was completely, like, totally naive in the situation, didn't know anything, and it was so green, and I just loved it. And I thought it was such a cool thing to learn that, like, we think that we have one way of going, and then life shows you that there's another way. And if you can just be open-minded and be, you know, a sponge to receiving everything around you, it's so wonderful to live life like that, because there's so much out there, and we can receive from so many teachers and friends and people and nature and animals and everything. So that was like a huge pivotal moment for me to realize that I can shift. And there's beauty in shifting, and and lots of fear as well. But like, taking that shift is really, and something that I try to tell younger students all the time when they're trying to decide on where they want to go. I always say, audition everywhere. And if you don't get into the place that you really, really wanted to do, you don't, you know, go to the other place, and you might see that it was actually the lifestyle that you really, really wanted, and you didn't even know.
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
Yeah.
So that was like the second spotlight moment for me, SAB. Then the third one was, which I think will be very common in our podcast, was the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because it halted everything that I was working on and what everybody was working on, really. but specifically in ballet because we couldn't go into the studio.
Yeah.
And I actually got stuck in California. There was no flights out because the pandemic shut everything down, and I was one of like the last flights out or something. So I went home to my mom, my stepdad, and my family there in LA with my dog Luna, and it was so incredible because I took a pause for the first time in so long, and I did ballet when I wanted to do ballet. And so I found myself with the ability to decide for myself what I wanted to do and really feel what that felt like. And that was so special and something that I've brought back into my life today. If I don't feel like doing ballet class now, I can always do it later and there's no problem. Like, and it's maybe so simple, but like even a time frame where we're grown up in such a strict way in ballet, like with times and stuff and told what to do, that being able to make a decision for yourself is incredible. Yeah. Like an incredible feat to do and have a voice. And I feel like the pandemic really helped me find exactly that, my voice for myself, and to be able to do what I want to do.
Yeah, and it's been such a theme throughout your career, which is that, you know, and many dancers' career, which is that you're often told what, how, and when. Yeah. And then refinding that voice that actually can be lost very easily. Yeah. Empowering yourself to make good decisions and actually make changes in your life in the way that you want to. I think it's one of the fun things that has happened through creating Grace and Form together. It's like actually creating something fully that you have every say over. Yeah. And being able to lend that voice. But I so remember when you were honing it in the pandemic and actually discovering these things.
Yeah, and I also went back to the basics of ballet, which was really cool because when you're a professional dancer, you can kind of start moving further and further away from that just because you do so much choreography and pieces and beautiful works. But and so you're kind of tired maybe sometimes to do like the super simple basics of like point work at the bar, and because your Achilles hurt or something. And so I was able to go back to that, and I just like fell in love with the craft and the basics, and it helped me so much in my career to go back to the basics. And it's something that I really, really suggest for people, just to every once in a while like go back to a really simple point class or regular class like bar or anything, and just really go into that technique again, like from the beginning. But during the pandemic, I also was able to be with my family, which, you know, when you leave at such a young age, I left at 15, I hadn't gotten that. And so reconnecting with my family and my mom, and it was just a very special time. A wonderful time to slow down. I know in a lot of people's lives it wasn't. And it was difficult as well at times in my life, but I tried to just really feel the gratitude and the change of pace, honestly.
And now, I mean, you just turned 30, which is very fun. Indy did the most classic Indy thing. We went to Tahoe. Indy was performing in Tahoe on her 30th birthday, and Indy woke up on her birthday morning and decided woke everybody else up, and we all had to walk down to the lake
in the rain,
in the winter, dead cold winter,
18th.
as she could just go for a little dip in the lake. It was freezing cold. Watching her, I felt like I was getting frostbite. Indy loves that. It's probably one of your biggest joys in life. Is a cold plunge. It's a part of your identity.
It's a part of my identity,
for sure. But coming to your 30th year, what would you say to 20-year-old Indy, fairly new to New York City Ballet and your career and everything else, not just about your dance world and life and job, but what do you think are some of the most poignant lessons that you have learned in that last 10 years?
I think breathing is the most poignant. Just really, you know, like you always do, putting your right hand on your chest and your left hand on your belly, and feeling your breath, because breathing is one thing that's super important, but then also physically feeling, especially if you're a mover. It's really nice and sometimes challenging to like touch your own being and be okay with it. And so it's a really cool challenge to do that every single day. And I do that whenever I'm feeling very anxious or I need to just breathe and come back into my day or come back into myself. So breathing is something that I'm so grateful I'm learning more and more about, like intentional breathing too. And it helps with even, it's like a mindful meditation to breathe and sit with yourself. So that I wish that I had known when I was younger a bit more. Another thing that I'm grateful I learned it quite young, but I would love to just put it out there even more. There's like a great Oscar Wilde quote that I always say, that is, be yourself because everyone else is already taken. And I just feel like that's really just explains it all, because, we see social media, magazines, movies, and all this stuff, and we always are told what's beautiful out there. We really are. That's like what I feel like socially we are told as a collective every month, the new beauty. Yeah. But actually there's beauty is
so many different things.
Many different things. And each person sees something beautiful. Yeah. And so I think that is something that really helped me later in my life to realize that to just be myself and that's enough. And it's very hard and still, sometimes don't feel enough. But I feel like just being active with whatever you're doing work-wise to really focus on how you can better yourself. So like, for example, to give an example, I've seen dancers that I admire, like their technique or their musicality or the way they turn or the way they do an arabesque or something. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could have that. I wish so badly, and like get upset with myself. Yeah. And instead of going into that space, and which might sound silly, but like wanting to actually copy, like physically copy them, I take my inspiration from them of what they were able to achieve and I apply it to myself. Yeah. So instead of thinking, oh, I really want to be Sylvie Guillaume and I'm so upset. Sylvie Guillaume was like one of the most amazing dancers, if you don't know. But I don't have the physicality like her. But I take all of what I'm so inspired by her and I put it in my unique way.
In your context.
Yeah, and I think that that's been so helpful in my career to feel confident in myself, but also just in life. Like, I really like how you wear your hair. And so I'm going to wear my hair like that, and it's going to look different, Yeah. So just being like okay with just, you can be, you can take inspiration and things from others, but it's always, in your way. Yeah. And that's beautiful. So those are the kind of the things that have helped me. In this last Also, decade. Cold plunging, I will always recommend. Yeah. Always.
Yeah, that's an entirely different podcast in itself. Indy could probably talk about that for 2 hours. So kind of to finish off, because Indy and I could genuinely
go for hours.
Yeah. And we shall and we will at another point. And there's so much sitting here in the chair next to Indy. There's so many different avenues that I could take this conversation because of how well I know you and how many interesting things we talk about over like a glass of wine at the end of the day. Totally. Like we've had so many times where we've been like, that was a podcast. Yeah. Like that was a podcast. Why did we not just record that? Because that was a podcast and we were there just talking about all the things. And we have really it's been so wonderful having you in my life, because you really are that voice of putting things in context and perspective. And some of the things that I feel like I have learned from you is the ability to really feel good in my own skin and not care what other people think.
That's so nice.
And potentially something that you've been learning with yourself over the years, but it's how you contextualize that and project it to other people and talk about it with me when I have my insecurities. Hugely transformative. And how open-minded you are, because you genuinely feel like you always make me believe that there's enough space in the room for everyone, always. And it's such a wonderful quality.
Thank you.
So that's just me giving you like some love, because it's true and it's wonderful to have a friend like that.
Thanks.
But to finish off, because life isn't always easy.
No.
And you've really been through both the ringer and some of the most incredible moments. I've seen you perform on stage doing the most wonderful things and the roles that you have dreamed of doing. So you've definitely had your highs too.
Yeah.
How just to finish off, how are you now today, Indy, at 30, after going on your journey that you've gone on, being a principal dancer at New York City Ballet, launching a business and having something new to be inspired by as well? How are you kind to yourself today?
I am most kind to myself by just giving myself some grace, honestly. Like just saying, it's okay, it's fine. If you need to sit down and take a pause, that's okay. And just like really listening to myself. That's that's how I'm trying to be most kind to myself, whether it means like I'm giving myself a piece of chocolate because I really, really would like a piece of chocolate and it would make me happy. I'm like, great. That's, simple kindness to myself.
Just for anybody listening, Indy has an amazing sweet tooth.
Yeah,
and
I'm
a piece of chocolate is really not cutting it. So
no.
a whole bar can continue.
Yeah. But other than that, I really do try to take care of my body and my mind. And so I listen to a ton of podcasts of just like self and interesting things. I think that that's very important, like how people have gone on their journeys. I've learned a lot about, neurosciences and things like that, and like lots of therapy podcasts and talking to a therapist is extremely helpful. And something
that's been incredible for you.
Very, very helpful. I've had it my whole life and I'm so grateful for it because it's helped me be kind to myself, quite honestly. Another thing to be kind to myself is reaching out when I am not okay or telling somebody that I'm having a really bad day. I think that has really helped me accept kindness because it's so hard to reach out, especially when I'm feeling so combative with myself.
Yeah.
And then being kind to myself also means taking myself to the bathhouse. Yeah. Because that's my absolute favorite thing to do.
Doing the things that feel good for your body, but also just like nourish your soul.
Yeah. I would say that's how I like to be kind to myself is doing things that really I know make me feel good, which is taking a bath, going to the bathhouse, having chocolate and ice cream, and being in nature. Yeah. And being surrounded by people that I really love and that I don't feel I'm not enough in the space.
Well, I'm very lucky to be a part of that circle.
I'm very lucky too.
Well, it's been like the silliest thing having this conversation with you because I felt like I knew you so well, but actually I've learned like a fair amount.
That's good.
So I'm putting it in my back pocket. Now I know my best friend even better.
Now I get to interview you.
Yeah, and we'll come back soon because we've got so much to talk about.
Yeah.
But I am ever inspired by how much grace you live your life by, and even in the tough times, the things that you say to keep yourself going. So thank you for answering all of these things. I love you so much.
I love you so much too.
And we'll see you all in another podcast.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you soon.
For the next one.
Come on, let's go to the bathhouse.
Yes, please.
Thank you for listening to the Grace and Form podcast. This episode was produced by Indiana Woodward, Megan Elsie McNally, and me, Saskia Gregson-Williams, and edited by Megan Elsie McNally. This season of the podcast was sponsored by our partners at Discount Dance. If you're really loving the show, it would be wonderful if you take a moment to rate and review us. It helps other ballet lovers find our pod and lets us bring you even more episodes. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.
Have thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find us on all social media platforms as Grace and Form Studio. Drop us a message. If this episode has got you itching to move, oh, do we have the app for you. Download the Grace and Form app today and start your 7-day free trial. Whether you're a seasoned dancer or just starting out, there are ballet classes and dance-inspired workouts for everyone, no matter the level. Come join our community of dance lovers and experience the joy of movement for yourself. Again, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, take a deep breath in, be gentle with yourself, and always keep moving forward.